Have you ever wondered how a world champion can suddenly look so human? How a rider who once ruled the grid can, within a single season, appear lost, fragile, and unrecognizable? And what if the answer was not in the machine, not in the team, not in the rivals, but in one silent mistake from the past that nobody noticed until now? Before you continue, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because what you are about to read may completely change the way you see Francesco Bagnaia's 2025 season. The 2025 MotoGP campaign was expected to be another chapter of dominance for Francesco Pecco Bagnaia. Fans predicted battles for the crown, commentators spoke of legacy, and rivals prepared for war. Instead, the season opened with something nobody was ready for, a dramatic and deeply unsettling decline in form. The confident champion who once attacked corners with surgical precision now hesitated, missed braking points, and lost positions in moments where he used to gain them. Each race weekend ended with the same question echoing across paddocks and living rooms. What is happening to Bagnaia? At first, the explanations sounded reasonable. New technical regulations, evolving Ducati philosophy, tire behavior, aggressive rivals, pressure of expectations. But as race after race slipped through his fingers, the excuses began to collapse. His body language changed. The fire in his eyes dimmed. His post-race interviews carried something heavier than disappointment, confusion. And behind closed doors, inside his own mind, Bagnaia was fighting a battle far more dangerous than any opponent on the grid. Then came the revelation. Not a dramatic press conference. Not a public announcement. Just a quiet moment of honesty that insiders say changed everything. Bagnaia finally admitted to himself that the roots of his 2025 collapse did not begin this year at all. They began in 2024. The mistake was not mechanical. It was not strategic. It was emotional, psychological, and deeply human. Last season, Bagnaia pushed his body and mind beyond the limits of sustainable performance. He ignored early warning signs of fatigue, stress, and mental overload. He chased perfection so aggressively that he forgot how to breathe. Victory became an obligation instead of a joy. Every lap was no longer a challenge. It was a burden. By the time the 2024 season ended, the champion's mind was exhausted, even though his trophy cabinet was full. When 2025 began, that invisible damage followed him onto the grid. The pressure of defending his reputation collided with an empty mental tank. Confidence evaporated at the first sign of trouble. Mistakes multiplied. Self-doubt grew. And suddenly, the greatest opponent Bagnaia faced was no longer Marc Marquez, no longer Jorge Martin, no longer the stopwatch. It was the voice inside his own helmet asking, "Do I still belong here?" The turning point arrived mid-season, after one particularly painful weekend where he finished outside the top 10. That night, alone in his motorhome, Bagnaia stopped reviewing telemetry and finally confronted the truth. He had never truly recovered from the mental strain of the previous year. He had carried that weight into 2025 pretending nothing was wrong. And that denial, more than any technical flaw, was destroying his performance. From that moment, everything began to change. Bagnaia shifted his focus away from lap times and back to himself. He rebuilt routines. He allowed rest. He reconnected with the reasons he started racing in the first place. The following races did not instantly produce victories, but something more important returned: clarity. His riding smoothed out. His braking stabilized. His corner entries sharpened. The fear in his eyes slowly gave way to purpose. Fans noticed. Rivals noticed. The paddock noticed. The results sheet still showed a season far from perfect, but the trajectory had reversed. And inside that transformation was a quiet lesson that shook the MotoGP world. Even champions can break, and sometimes the bravest victory is admitting where you went wrong. So now the question is no longer why did Bagnaia fall? The real question is, what happens when a wounded champion finally heals? Is this the beginning of the most dangerous version of Francesco Bagnaia the sport has ever seen? If you believe this comeback story is only just beginning, drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe, because the next chapter of MotoGP 2025 may be written by a man who finally made peace with his past. As the shadow of MotoGP 2025 begins to fade, a powerful new narrative is forming in the heart of Southeast Asia. It is a story built on hope, struggle, sacrifice, and belief. For Indonesia, MotoGP 2026 is no longer just another season on the calendar. It is a destination. And standing at the center of this destination are two young riders whose journeys feel almost scripted by destiny itself, Mario Aji and Beta Pratama. For decades, Indonesian fans have lived with patience in their veins. They have watched other nations rise, produce champions, dominate circuits, and collect trophies while Indonesia waited for its moment. That moment now feels closer than ever. Mario Aji, with his relentless work ethic and fearless riding style, represents the bridge between dream and reality. His evolution through the racing ranks has been anything but smooth, but it is precisely those scars that have shaped him into a rider of extraordinary resilience. Each crash, each setback, each heartbreak only strengthened his resolve, transforming him into a competitor who no longer races merely to participate, but to conquer. Alongside him emerges Beta Pratama, a name that is beginning to circulate with quiet intensity inside the paddock. While the world may not yet fully recognize his potential, those who observe closely understand what is unfolding. His control, his racing intelligence, his ability to read battles several corners ahead, reveals something rare. He does not chase moments. He builds them. Where Mario brings fire and hunger, Beta brings calculation and precision. Together, they form a balance that feels almost intentional, as if Indonesian motorsport itself selected its two champions in waiting. The emotional weight of their mission cannot be overstated. They are not simply chasing podiums. They are carrying the expectations of millions who grew up waking at dawn to watch MotoGP, believing that one day they would hear Indonesia's anthem rise over the circuit. For Mario and Beta, every lap in 2026 will echo with those hopes. Every overtake will feel like a step toward national identity on the world's most elite motorcycle stage. Behind the scenes, preparations intensify. Training schedules tighten. Pressure builds. The learning curve steepens. Yet both riders seem to thrive inside the storm. Their confidence is not loud, not arrogant, but deeply rooted. They understand what this opportunity represents. They know the door that has opened for Indonesian racing may not remain open forever. And that knowledge fuels every decision they make. What makes this moment even more powerful is the contrast between where they started and where they stand now. From local tracks to international circuits, from limited resources to global attention, their rise mirrors the rise of Indonesian motorsport itself. They are not merely athletes. They are symbols. Proof that Indonesia's future in MotoGP is no longer a fantasy whispered in grandstands, but a reality forming at high speed. So as 2026 approaches, one question dominates the hearts of fans. Is this finally the era Indonesia has been waiting for? Will Mario Aji and Beta Pratama become the names children memorize, the heroes posters are printed for, the riders who shift how the world sees Indonesian racing forever? In the quiet moments between races, when engines fall silent and the noise of the world fades, Fermin Aldeguer holds onto a vision that refuses to let go. It is not a trophy, not a contract, not even a championship. It is a dream, one powerful image burned into his imagination, standing inside the Ducati garage in 2026, wearing red, side by side with the man he once watched in awe, Marc Marquez. For Aldeguer, this is not simple ambition. It is emotional gravity. Growing up, Marquez was not merely a champion on television. He was the embodiment of fearlessness, the definition of what it meant to attack every corner without hesitation, to ride as if limits were made to be broken. While other kids chased signatures, Aldeguer chased understanding. He studied Marquez's lines, his body movement, his instinctive violence against the stopwatch. And somewhere along that journey, the impossible began to feel achievable. Now, with 2026 looming on the horizon, that childhood vision no longer feels like fantasy. Aldeguer's rise through the racing world has been sharp, deliberate, and increasingly impossible to ignore. Each race adds a new layer to his reputation: composure under pressure, adaptability on changing tracks, a racing mind that seems far older than his years. And yet beneath all that professionalism lives the heart of a fan who still remembers what it felt like to watch Marquez dominate Sundays. The emotional tension of this dream lies in its complexity. Ducati is not simply a team. It is the most powerful machine in modern MotoGP, the battlefield where champions are forged or destroyed. To imagine sharing that space with Marc Marquez is to imagine standing inside the storm itself. For Aldeguer, the dream is not comfort, it is challenge. He does not want to follow Marquez. He wants to learn from him, fight him, evolve beside him, and perhaps one day surpass him. Inside the paddock, whispers grow. The possibility is no longer laughed away. Aldeguer's trajectory points forward with dangerous momentum. Ducati's future planning already looks toward generational transition. And Marquez, ever the warrior, continues to defy time and expectation. The idea of these two sharing a garage is no longer absurd. It is provocative. It is intoxicating. It is terrifying for their rivals. Imagine the psychology of that garage in 2026. One rider, a living legend with scars of 10,000 battles. The other, a rising force with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The mentorship would be ruthless. The competition would be relentless. The learning curve would be brutal. But the potential? Almost unimaginable. Ducati would not merely field two riders, they would unleash two storms. For Aldeguer, this dream is also deeply personal. It is the story of a boy who refused to choose safe ambitions. He chose the highest mountain and decided that even if he fell, he would fall climbing. To ride with Marquez is to measure himself against the standard that shaped his entire philosophy of racing. It is the ultimate mirror, the ultimate test. So now the paddock waits, fans speculate, and the dream continues to breathe. Will Fermin Aldeguer's vision of 2026 become reality? Will the Ducati garage hold both the future and the past of Spanish racing under one roof? And if it happens, will MotoGP ever be the same again?